Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Nerve to Heal on the 5 pillars of embodiment. And if you don't know what the pillars of embodiment are, you are about to find out. Take it away, Angie.
It definitely is something that's been on my mind. So, in our sexological bodywork training, we learned the pillars of embodiment. And those are breath, sound, touch, movement, and where do you place your awareness? It's very easy to fall back into habit when we're not practicing this awareness and what we're doing with it in our bodies while we are engaging with another, or while we are self pleasuring, or just sitting by yourself in a cafe, maybe. You have some time to yourself. How often are we tuning into what's happening in our body?
Yeah, I mean, most people almost never. Still, I tune out of my body very frequently, which is normal, just to de-shamify it. It's pretty normal. There's a lot going on when we tune into our bodies, and sometimes that can not feel so comfortable. And so tuning out is a skill that pretty much everyone has developed. And some people find it easier to jump back into their body, and some people find it a little harder. So that's why we have those pillars of embodiment, because it gives us those roots back into our selves.
Absolutely. And also, it's being present in
Right.
this moment right now. That is really such a beautiful thing in sexological body work and stream work is that we keep coming back to the present moment. What are you noticing in your body? What's happening? Can you describe a sensation? Where's your breath? So these little cues to help us remember like everything is happening right here, right now. Like an example is if I am engaging with a partner and we're intimate and I'm enjoying the moment, but something might take me out of it. Maybe I don't enjoy a touch or something. And my mind might start racing and going in a different way. And I'm completely out of my body now. And now I'm in this spinning cycle of like, oh, I don't really like that. Oh, I'll just kind of go with it. And maybe I'm worrying and I start to kind of spiral down and out of this moment. So there's more that goes into that specific example. I would need to ask for what I want and
Mhm.
know what that is. But also if I just come back to my body and say, what is this touch like? What is that sensation? Is it strong enough? Do I want a holding touch?
Is it warm? Is it rough? What would make it 5% better? I think that's what I enjoyed
Mm,
the most about my sex bod training was that question of it doesn't have to be a big shift, but is there any small shift that would make it any more exquisite? And if it's
I
not
love that.
exquisite, then definitely change it. But if it's
Yes.
already exquisite, is there anything that would make it even just 5% more exquisite?
Thank you for that. Because right now we could do that right now. What
Right,
could make me sitting here right now 5% more comfortable? Is
right.
it that I need some more water? Do I want to close this blind? Is this seat soft enough for me? Do I want to pull my hair back so I'm not playing with it? What is that little thing that will make me feel just a little more
I
relaxed,
see.
at ease?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like right now, I'm going to uncross my legs and just place my feet on the ground and arrange my sit bones a bit.
I'm feeling like I'm a little too warm in this room. I'm also drinking broth, which is probably making me more warm. So I'm
Yeah.
going to take off my sweater.
Yes. So that's the key is, noticing how can something come more into my awareness that will bring me a little bit more joy, a little more ease.
Ooh, that brought
And
me a lot more joy, actually. And it's a really good exercise in any given moment. What would bring me a little bit more of a glimmer, which is the opposite of the trigger, as we know,
yeah,
more of a glimmer in this moment. And it really could be as simple as just taking off a sweater or putting on a jacket if it's like a little chilly.
a
Yeah.
great point because we are conditioned to, let's use school as an example. I have children, you have children, they go to
Mhm.
school, you have to follow rules. You don't have a lot of your own agency there. You got to go to the bathroom. Well, you got to ask, and then you got to wait, and then you got to get up and walk in front of everybody and go to the bathroom.
I hate that kids have to ask to.
I hate it too. It's terrible. So we've been conditioned through our jobs, through school, to tolerate these conditions, which mean you don't really get a choice. But we forget we do have choice, but we fall back into that behavior of just muddling through something and accepting what is right now because it's just easier or it's just the way it is. So there's a lot of empowerment when we slow down and listen to that very minuscule thing that says, hey, could you just pull my hair back because it will get out of my face and that will feel really good. And you'd be surprised how much that shifts your comfort.
Yeah. Or before you kiss me, could you use some lip balm?
Mm,
It's a small shift. You're not saying to someone, I don't like your kiss. You're just saying it would make it even better if I could taste coconut while I was kissing you.
absolutely.
Yeah, it would
Absolutely.
feel luxurious and then my lips would get moisturized and that would be amazing.
And maybe that certain smell of coconut reminds you of being on the beach or the sun on your skin or the time you spent with your husband, right? Or a partner. And that memory comes up and that brings feelings of happiness or pleasure, warmth, whatever it is.
I remember reading a book once. It was some book about charisma. And she was writing about how sometimes we're at a business meeting or something, the sun is in our eyes, wherever we're sitting. And instead of just saying to the person you're talking to, hang on a second, I'm going to just adjust my chair, you just squint and feel uncomfortable and put your hand over your eyes maybe at some point and just your whole body language just projects discomfort, but
Yes.
you don't actually do anything to change it. You just try and put band-aids on. Like you'll just
Yeah.
squint or cover the eyes or try and move your head a little, but all you do is end up looking incredibly awkward. Instead of just saying to the person opposite you, the sun's in my eyes. How about we move into
Yeah.
the shade or let me shift my chair? And we don't do that. Instead, we project this discomfort because we have this idea that asking for something that would make ourselves a little bit more comfortable. And she said she talks about it with clothes as well. If you're wearing clothes that make you feel uncomfortable, like there's a label on it, or the material is scratchy, or something that just doesn't feel good,
Yes.
we do not ever project confidence, charisma, and I would add sexiness. We don't project sexiness when we're feeling uncomfortable.
What's happening in that instant is like how you're describing the sun in your eyes, or like, let's say you're wearing jeans and they're a little tight in your gut when you sit down. This happens to me all the time. I will undo it. But it took me a long time to get to that point because I was like, okay, but I have all these associations with it. Like, I don't fit my jeans and I'm bad mouthing myself about my body. But as humans, we tend to swing towards the negative of things. So, like you're saying, having that conversation, the sun is in your eyes, and you're trying to ward off and tolerate the sun, you're not actually able to be fully present in this conversation because you're trying to manage. I'm squinting my eyes. Oh, that's really hurting. And it's going to the back of my head. And maybe you're getting hot sitting there and you're not fully present. You're missing out on that moment, right? Because you're not willing to make that shift or that change. That's agency.
It's agency and it's being embodied. It's noticing in
Yeah.
this moment, my eyes are squinted, my face is screwed up. I want to move backwards, but the person I'm talking to is in front of me. How could I make
Yeah.
the situation better? That's embodiment. It's actually dropping into the discomfort in your body. And instead of shoving it aside and ignoring it and saying it doesn't exist if I don't pay attention to it and you can actually change the situation and
Yeah.
probably have a more productive meeting.
So much more so. And I think bringing up agency and noticing what we need, that's a whole topic.
But
And
back to the pillars. You mentioned breath as one of them. Breath
oh,
is something that we work with both in stream and in sexological bodywork, right? It's so important. It regulates our nervous system, it regulates arousal, it
mhm,
regulates presence, actually. Like anyone who has a mindfulness practice or knows anything about Buddhism knows that the gateway into presence is breath.
yeah. It's your life force as well. You can adjust it and you can also just sit with how it is and notice the breath, how it breathes you. So every inhale is an upregulation, every exhale is a downregulation. And so you can play with your nervous system by taking more breaths in and shorter exhales out to upregulate yourself.
Yeah.
If you are feeling you're upregulated, you're uncomfortable, well, let's focus on exhaling longer. So the inhales become shorter and then the exhales get longer. So this signals to your nervous system, oh, we're coming down. Okay, everything's okay. We're slowing down.
Yeah.
A great breath practice for that is like inhale for 4 through your nose, hold for 2, and then exhale for 6 out the mouth.
That's like a slightly modified box breathing, right? Because the box breathing is you inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, and then you
Yeah.
can do it again.
We're noticing that we're starting to build our arousal and it's getting a little bit more full, starting to come towards a peaking phase. You can amplify it, right? We can
Yeah.
start breathing through our mouth like
Yeah.
inhale.
We call people mouth breathers when we think they're creepy or whatever. So mouth breathing has this connotation. It does have a connotation of someone sleazy and it does. It has that like this person who just wants sex who's like mouth breathing. But if you think about
Like
it,
that.
yeah,
Yes.
that. But, there's also that feeling of getting more oxygen into your body because your heart is beating faster, because your blood is flowing, because you want to amp yourself up. Breathing, you can try getting that amount of air in through your nostrils. Good luck. It's really hard to get a huge amount of air in through your nostrils. Sometimes, in some situations, it is okay to be a mouth breather. It's pretty fun to try it. I think a lot of my clients who try it, they tell me they get dizzy very fast if you're not used to it.
Well, and also if you have low blood pressure, that kind of breathing through the mouth quickly will definitely affect your dizziness and getting up. So you want to do it laying down and start slowly at the rate that works for you. You got to just listen to the body and find out. But also with the breath in arousal, we tend to, when we are getting so heightened, we tend to hold the breath and we get what's called like the tension orgasm, right? We're holding this, squeezing, and everything's just bracing, waiting for everything to peak over.
Yep.
And those are great, but you can expand on that by breathing more.
That's circular breathing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what happens when you do circular breathing for several minutes at a time. I recommend that people try it. Like lie down and you don't have to force it. Again, like Angie said, you just let it breathe you, but don't have a pause between your out breath and your in breath. As
Yeah.
soon as you finish breathing out, breathe in. As soon as you finish breathing in, breathe out. Don't pause between them. That's the circular
Yeah.
breathing. So it's just one big unbroken loop of breath.
Yeah.
And notice what happens if you do that. Even just set a timer and try it for 3 minutes. It's very, very interesting.
It really changes the awareness in your body and your habitual pattern. And it's also the way that babies breathe. They don't hold their breath.
Do they? I
Yeah,
do
they
that.
just breathe in and out. Older people, I don't know what age this starts to occur. Let's say 2. Breathing in, we tend to hold our breath and we don't even notice we're doing it.
Huh.
It's a
I,
great thing to notice. Like when you're stressed, am I breathing? What am I doing? Okay. Where am I holding? And then just exhale out, take a breath in. First, we have to be relaxed in parasympathetic to open up and feel safe, to enjoy pleasure and to take it in. But then as we start to build in orgasm arousal, we start to pick up the breath more because that's going to bring us higher and more movement in the body and the nervous system so that all the blood flow is moving, right? Starts to happen.
well, that's the difference, right? Between excitement and anxiety. It's breath. If you think about anxiety, anxiety is a state where your heart is pounding, your blood is pumping, but your breathing is not flowing. And excitement is the same physiological things happening in your body, even the chest tightness, even the blood pumping, all of that muscle
Lots of
tightness,
eye movement.
but you're breathing. That's what separates excitement and anxiety. And it's the same thing in arousal. And arousal doesn't necessarily mean sexual arousal. Yes, arousal can be sexual, but arousal can just be that your nervous system is on alert. It's on alert for something. And
Right.
you're either going to feed it things that are going to take it into a positive arousal arc, or you can feed it things that take it into quite a negative arousal arc. And
Mm,
it's what you feed your arousal that's actually going to make a difference of which state you end up in.
really good to point that out. Polarity is in the sensations in the body. Also, what caught my interest of what you said there was what you make of it with where you go with that arousal, right?
Yeah.
So I think when we experience a lot of sensation, we can couple it with negative things, or it might have been a good experience. So we couple it with that or associate with that. A great way to change any associations or coupling that you have with a sensation and an experience, let's say it's an experience you didn't like, is to let yourself feel that sensation, but don't judge it. You don't put the story to it. You tune into the touch and the physical movement in your body, what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's a way to move through hard things, the triggering things or certain touches, certain smells, whatever it is. Be with those sensations in a way that is non-judgmental and does not carry a story.
Choose something that you know you can handle, right? Don't go
Little
to a thing that's going to put you straight into a trauma response or a very triggered response. Choose your start level and go accordingly, is what I would say about that. Titrate,
that's great.
titration.
Absolutely. So
So
important.
so we had breath, and then the other one is sound, isn't it?
Yeah. Sound. I love sound.
I do too. I'm a sound girl.
Yeah.
For me, someone whispering in my ear
Mm.
raises the hairs on the back of my neck in a good way and also in a bad way. Sound for me is far more arousing than anything visual ever would be. So someone could be the sexiest person ever and they could be naked and they could be covered in chocolate, I don't know. But if there was no sound to that image, I don't think I would find it sexy. I might find it curious, but I don't think I would feel aroused. For me, sound is what pushes me over the edge. A
Mm.
whisper, a sigh, someone's breathing,
Yeah.
even just different sounds, the sounds that happen during sex. So even like the squeak of a bed or any of
Yes.
those sounds, I find them incredibly hot. My God, people moaning. There is actually an app that I listen to. Dipsy has an app. I'm not advertising for Dipsy. We don't have a
Uh-huh.
relationship with them, but they have an app where they literally just have moan tracks. You
I
can
like
choose
it.
different people, different ages, different genders, different whatever. And so they have
Hmm.
like Noah moaning or Emily moaning, and you can just put it
Awesome.
on, and it's just 20 minutes of them going, oh.
Okay, that is amazing. Even hearing you do that, I had sparks in my body. I was like, "Oh my god." When you mentioned someone whispering in your ear, I thought, yeah, it's soft. There's temperature with it too. It's also a vibration. And I think about singing bowl workshops,
Mhm.
and when they ring the bowls, there's sound, but it's also vibrating. I can feel it vibrating in my bones.
Yes, you can actually feel them. That's why there's different sounds that hit you in different places in your body
Yeah.
as well, because different places in your body resonate with different frequencies of sound, which I think is so
Mhm.
cool. And I think it's also why people get very energized by things like drum circles.
Oh, for
You
sure.
think about drumming, especially, that hits you right in the heart, right?
Mhm.
Or if you go to a concert and you're next to a speaker and some of the bass, you feel it in
Yeah.
various places in your body. It's not just a sound that comes into your ears, it comes into all of your,
Bones.
yeah.
Goes right through the tissues into your bones. I notice it in my bones a lot, that vibration from sound. The other way that we use sound with the moaning. So I find if I am in a self pleasure practice and I'm kind of stalling out, I'm just going to call it a stall out, I will make sound because I'm either wrapped up in some kind of thought or just some habitual movement. If I add sound in, I am like right back in my body. So even just the ah, any kind of sound, you feel that vibration in your body and you just drop right back in. So, using that in partnered sex or solo, whatever, it really shifts. the tone of your connection with yourself and your partner.
It's interesting because I love when other people make sounds during sex. I love
Huh.
that, and I love it when they make sounds when they're in their pleasure, and I very rarely make sound. And it's interesting because as I unpack that in myself, I think there's a part of me that sort of rolls my eyes and says, "That's so performative." Right? Which is
Yeah.
when we grew up watching porn or watching people make sounds, but we saw that they weren't actually aroused or that didn't look real, but the sound was accompanying it. It sort of rings false.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the messaging that I had growing up was people who make those sounds are lying. They're not real. I have an aversion to making sounds myself, but I love it when someone else does it.
Growing up, masturbating, think of the ways we did it. It was fast, quiet, and hidden.
Yep.
You don't make sound. So I remember when I first made sound, which was, I don't know, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm in my 40s. So that's a while to go without knowing these other embodiment practices, how to amplify being with myself that feels better. But when I first heard a sound come out of me, it was kind of surprising. Like, oh my God, I'm voicing something that I'm feeling internally. That's kind of a big thing.
That's
And
cool.
because I'm being seen, witnessed, and heard in pleasure, and I'm making a sound with that. So for me, that ties into shame, some
Right.
sexual shame, like, oh, I don't want to be loud about it. I don't want to be heard. And I'm just going to stay quiet. I'll just make a little noise. But I find the more that I'm actually embodying and love what I'm doing and how I'm being touched or touching myself, those sounds just come out and it really enhances a lot more of my pleasure of just flowing in the moment.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with a pleasure ceiling and what you allow yourself to
Mhm.
have in terms of pleasure. I think it's interesting because, again, if you ever had the experience of having sex with someone who's a loud sex person, again, I've had experience like that where I'm sort of like, how dare you? How dare you make that much noise? I would never, but it's cool. I'm always in awe of it. And then I'm also like, don't you feel worried that someone's going to knock on the door and tell you to shut up? Don't you get embarrassed? And that's so interesting because that's just leftover shame.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean,
It's so hard to purge it.
I feel like there's layers. It's like you peel a layer of shame and then something deeper comes up. And then you go with that and you get curious about it and then something deeper comes up. At least that's what I'm experiencing. I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but I think that I have very deep roots of shame around my sexuality. Being seen as a sexual person, that feels so vulnerable. It doesn't feel safe, but there's little ways that I move to embody more of where I'm at right now.
Mm,
And like you said, titrate and
absolutely. Might put on
grow.
that moan track later and just try and moan along with it and see how that feels.
Well, and that also comes with you being more authentic with yourself.
Yeah.
In what way does this feel true to me that I can do it?
Yeah. If I eat something that is so freaking delicious, I'll be like, oh,
Yes. Oh,
which
that's
I would,
such a good point you bring up.
which I wouldn't do during sex, but I would do it if I'm eating a chocolate mousse.
And that's pleasure, right?
Yep.
And that's delight. And you're noticing taste, smell, texture, all of that. And it's okay for you to voice that. Yeah, I used to make a lot of noise when I love eating food too. My friends would make fun of me like, "Oh my God, she's enjoying her meal." I don't do that so much anymore. But I
So
think I'm more so when I'm physically intimate or having a sexual experience, I will use a lot more sound.
interesting.
And it's fun. I really push the boundaries of it because
Yeah.
I was never able to do that, and it feels really good to hear my voice in that moment of something I'm enjoying.
Yeah. I think there's also, it's a permission thing. It's a total permission thing. And you're signaling to someone that the food that they just gave you was amazing. I grew up in a family where food was incredibly important. And so we probably all learned that making noises at the table was totally acceptable because it would make my mom feel validated for the quality of her food.
Yeah.
right? So that's something that we learned how to do, and that making noises at the table when something was delicious wasn't going to get us punished or anything.
A show of respect and appreciation.
Yeah, you can feel some of that shame of, oh, I'm being too loud, I'm being too much,
Mhm.
I'm taking up too much space, or I'm not allowed to do this.
Shame is such a hidden thing, right?
Yeah,
So when you bring it out in the light, when you bring awareness to it, it can't be hidden any longer.
it's powerful.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to be romantic to me, just know that all you have to do is moan into my mouth or whatever. That's what does it for me. And then we
Mhm.
come to touch, which is another pillar. Third
Yep.
pillar is touch.
Yeah.
And that's something that we work with a lot, resensitizing the body through conscious exploratory work. That's what sex bod is at its core. Not that we don't put emotion into our work, but at its core, it is just sensitizing the body through this very conscious, very exploratory touch.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of in Tantra, they use the elements touch. So
What's
when
elements touch?
fire, water,
Oh,
earth.
right.
So you can use like different ways of touching. Like if you were to take your hands and start to rub your arms, your upper arm or your forearm, and you could start to do it a little faster, creating a little bit of friction. That would be like a fire touch.
Mhm,
Water, I think it's just smoothing, like a flowing palm to skin touch all over the body.
mhm.
Earth would be a holding, like almost just one hand in one place, a gentle squeeze maybe.
I like that one the most. Do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From moment to moment, our desires can change and the type of touch we are receiving or what we want will change. And then the other element is so we have
Air,
fire, air. Oh, yeah. So the silky, like feathery fingertip touch.
feathery touch.
Yeah.
What's scratching? Because scratching.
That's fire. Yeah. Fire,
Okay.
friction. Thank
So
you.
I'm an all elements kind of girl. Maybe not water. I don't know.
I'm
Water
more of
sounds the
a
least appealing to me.
those you like the fiery, yeah. But definitely playing around with like what touch do I want now? And what is that kind of touch? Like, do I want to be soothed? Do I want to be provoked? Do I want something that really brings like an acute touch that has my awareness so drawn in I can't pay attention to anything else?
Which is what people do with kink sometimes,
Correct.
right? That's why they like
Absolutely.
floggers or canes. I often get people in my office who are like, "Ooh, who would want?" They'll pick up the cane and they'll whack it a few times on the table, and they'll say, "People don't really like that, do they?" And I'll say, "Sure, they do."
Yeah.
Because nothing brings you back into presence faster than a cane to your bottom. Like that
Yeah.
will bring you right into presence immediately. And
Yeah.
Naga does the same thing, but more gently. And it's it's the sound of it, it's the smell of it. I love the smell of my flogger, to be honest, which is
Really?
is not part of the five pillars smell, but
Should be.
it should
Maybe.
be, because
Yeah.
smell is also incredibly important. For me, sometimes a cologne can do it to me and it can just bring me into that arousal space immediately. Sometimes it's the smell of leather. I really love the smell of leather.
Mm.
I know other people that, latex is a smell that really gets them. For some people, it's chocolate or flowers or whatever is romantic to you. So smell also matters, but you
Yes.
should add it in.
It's part of the senses. It needs to
Yes.
be in there.
But getting back to touch, that's why people like sensations that are sometimes considered painful,
Yeah.
sometimes stinging and scratching and biting and all of those things.
Mhm.
But intensity brings you into your body,
Yep.
hence embodiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No stories that have to go along with how you're receiving the touch, what kind of touch it is, and the why. In sex, like that stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
And you'd be surprised if you really allow yourself to go into the fantasies, what your needs are in that moment, how much you can really open up to more of yourself, to the unknown of pleasure and how far that will take you. But when we express ourselves sexually, that bleeds out into our lives,
Yeah.
into daily life. And there's more freedom in that. So these pillars help us to embody that in a more intimate way. Then it affects everything that we do outside of the bedroom.
Yeah. You're opening yourself up to more sensation when you put emphasis on sensation or even sound, right? If you do a little exercise that I do with people, if they're feeling anxious, it depends what they resonate with. For some people, it's sound. I'll say, listen to the closest sound to you right now. Sometimes people will say, oh, it's your voice. I'll say, it's not actually. If you listen really carefully, it's your own breathing. If you can listen to the sound of your own breathing, that's the closest sound to you right now. And then listen to the sound that's furthest away from you right now. And sometimes that's traffic on a highway a few blocks away from you. Sometimes it's a car door slamming somewhere. But there's usually sounds. You can tune in, you can tune out, you can be close, you can be far, but you can do that with sound. You can also do it with touch, right? You can touch your body in different places and ask yourself, what does that feel like? You can pinch yourself in different places and see what that feels like. You can rub your two fingers together and see if you can be so sensually attuned that you can feel the fingerprints on either finger that are touching together. Like, can you feel the tiny, minute grooves of your fingertips, of your fingerprint, rather?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all like right now, when you're describing fingerprints, I
Mhm.
never tuned into that. But as I'm noticing it here right now, it just brings such a state of awe and like perfection of just this touch of me being with me touching.
Yeah. I
And
love that
it's
now.
so freeing. Yeah.
And when you focus in on that, there's nothing else. Nothing else
Right.
comes into your mind. You're so focused on, can I feel the grooves of my fingerprint, which are tiny, our fingers are so incredibly sensitive. We can read with our fingertips. Braille is a whole language of dots that you can just read with your fingertips. Our fingertips are amazing in how sensitive they are. And we just don't tune into them, which is insane. Touch stuff all day, and we never ever ask ourselves, what does this feel like?
That's that slowing down bit. So with the touch, as you start to touch, tell yourself, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Slow that touch down a little bit. Now slow it down a little bit more. And you just start cutting the touch in speed again and again. And that's when you really start to tune in a little more. And
Yeah.
you feel the nuance of it and you feel the delight in it or the pain or it's just, whatever's coming up for you
Yeah.
has to be
Right?
slow because when we're glossing over things so quickly, you don't get to slow down and notice that moment, that particular second when you're receiving that touch or when you're touching yourself.
Right.
And that's when things enhance and there's way more awareness and nuance and discovery in that slowness of touch. I think that's kind of maybe more in the beginning because as we are more sexually aroused, well, we're going to want a little bit faster touch.
Interesting, because some of the touches that people enjoy when they're very aroused, they would hate those kind of touches if they were not aroused. Like, think about unloading the dishwasher and having someone tweak your nipple. Like, if someone tried to tweak my nipple while I was unloading the dishwasher,
Yeah.
probably that would be grounds for divorce.
That would be a sudden shock to the body, like, "Huh,
And
you
it
don't
wouldn't
know."
feel pleasant. No part of that would feel, ooh, that was not like, it would just be like, what?
Versus like as you're bending over to the dishwasher, a soft, subtle fingertip glide across your low.
Or even just a grounding touch on your low back, right? Might
Yeah,
feel pretty good. But then
yeah,
if I think about it during sex, during arousal, like totally different experience, like tweak away, like that would feel
right.
amazing. But context matters for touch.
Definitely, yes.
Right? And knowing, and it's very interesting to touch your body. That's why we tell people to do mindful erotic practice to see what kind of touches feel good to you when you're in an aroused state versus when you're in a non-aroused state,
Mhm.
because it's fascinating.
And every body is different, and no one touch does it for the next person. Everyone is so individual.
Yeah. So moving on to,
Movement.
so that's an interesting one for me as well. Movement is basically unlocking energy and creating flow in your body to increase sensation, and it also releases tension. Anyone who's ever done stretching knows that movement can do that, and sport can do that in general. but movement can be incredibly important for sensuality, for sexuality, and for our nervous systems.
Well, there's a couple things that come to mind is the movement of the hips
Hmm.
and the pumping action of thrusting. That's actually moving the spinal fluid
Yeah.
through the spine. And so when you have a lot of that juice running through you, your body's lit up and it's communicating. With the genital arousal and adding in the movement, like you said, you're going to expand the pleasure more throughout your body rather than just localized in one area.
Yes.
So there's more capacity for greater pleasure. And the other thing that I would add about these embodiment practices is if you're not used to doing them and you're in a state of arousal and you decide to throw one of them in there, you will decrease in arousal.
Right? Because it's a new skill and you're trying
Yes.
to focus on it, and then you're taking your focus off of what you're doing.
Right. So, like, I just want to throw that out there as a side note that adding these new things in, it won't happen right away. It
If
is
you,
a
if you
definite,
suddenly start hip thrusting when
right.
you've never hip thrusted before, first of all, your partner's going to be like, whoa, probably in a good way, though. Yeah.
Even like women try like moving your hips in like a circle 8, right?
Yeah.
Just getting some hip movement in there and moving fingertips. Try touching more while receiving pleasure too. Just starting to feel into all of what's available for you with more movement. But it definitely can be disappointing when you first start doing it because you won't find more increased pleasure right away. It's a practice, like you said, like shaking your body,
Shaking is fun. Shaking.
jumping, all of that. And that's even just to get into your body.
Even running. Running
Yeah.
can sometimes be very arousing to me. I know that
Mm.
sometimes after I
Oh
run,
my
if I
god.
sprint, especially not like a long, sustained kind of marathon style run, but if I
Like an
do a
interval
bunch of
run.
sprints,
Mhm.
that gets me in the mood for sex pretty quickly, to be honest.
You just like loaded up your body with all that oxygen and all of the, I don't know what's releasing, but it's definitely got you at a prime, right?
Yeah.
I'm on. Everything in my body is on and I am tuned in. Let's have some fun.
So sprinting is great. I would say that also weightlifting does that. So
Mhm.
I guess if you're not a flowy movement person, take heart. I am not a flowy movement person at all, but I do move my body. I do Pilates, I do weights, I do sprints. All of those things definitely make me feel aroused.
Yeah, and this is a good thing to mention is before you are going into intimacy with another person is to do the movement, to do the running, to do the Pilates, to do the yoga, because you're moving everything in your body
Yeah.
and it's more heightened, it's more alert for sure. But in the bedroom, like in the physical act of doing and having sex, just notice if you are a little bit frozen. Am I just holding? Am I held in a pattern of tension here? Oh, well, maybe if I just move my shoulders a little bit or my neck, my
Yeah.
butt, I'm just going to move my butt around a little bit, maybe stretch out my leg, whatever, and add that in.
Notice the patterns of tension. Are you stiff as a board
Yeah.
when someone is having sex with you?
Yeah.
Right.
Like what's happening in your neck? Because, right, if we're clenching in the jaw or we're holding our neck really tight, the hips are going to be tight.
And the vagina is going to be tight because
Yeah.
vagina, jaw are very, very linked. So
Exactly.
if you're ever feeling like you need to loosen up, do this with your jaw. Just like move it from side to side and open it and do a big yawn.
A great one too is the lion's breath. So you just gently open your mouth without forcing it and let it hang open and then start to stick your tongue down towards your chin slowly. Add in sound, even better. But that definitely helps release the masseter,
Yeah,
the jaw.
love that.
No. And then we talked about placement of awareness.
I mean, all of them, you're placing awareness,
Mhm.
right? So you can do all of them without any awareness. I mean, all of us move every day, and many of us do it without awareness. All of us touch things every day, and we do it without awareness. We make sounds every day, and we do it without awareness. So again, the placement of awareness is what makes the embodiment practice an embodiment practice, because we're
Yes.
all doing those things anyway. We're just doing it without placing awareness. So I would say that the pillar of all pillars is the placement of awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Should
Just,
we recap our pillars?
yeah, let's recap them for us.
Sure. So we had the first one as breath.
Hmm.
So every inhale is an upregulation, every exhale is a downregulation.
Yep.
And circular breathing is a beautiful one to keep everything moving. That's moving your breath without pausing at the top or the bottom. And using your breath, just notice, am I breathing? Am I holding? How can I tune in with my breath a little bit more?
Love it.
And then we have sound, adding sound into a self pleasure practice, or even using it, like speaking your opinions when you are in a place and maybe you don't often do that. Maybe you actually speak up for yourself and you say what matters to you using your voice. Also, we talked about vibration of sound for that pillar of embodiment, whispering in the ear, the vibration in the bones, allowing that to be present with you. And our touch with all the different possibilities.
Soft or a little bit sharp or
Yep.
some thuddy or
I
stingy,
like
right?
that
Using
one.
different textures to wake up your awareness on either genital or non-genital areas,
All
noticing what that
over.
feels like when you're aroused and also when you're not aroused.
Yep. And movement, which we just talked about. So moving before you are having a self-pleasure practice or having sex with someone else or just intimacy,
Mhm.
getting in your body with movement.
Yeah. And even if it's just small rhythmic pelvic movements, or just moving parts of your body, trying to shake some tension out of it. Those are good ways to get into that. And then placement of awareness,
Mhm.
right? Being mindful of where your focus lies, whether it's specific body parts that are calling your attention or whether it's particular sensations that are causing you to take notice, or whether it's emotions that are getting in the way of you being embodied. Just noticing that. And
Yeah.
during arousal, self touch, maybe playing with that awareness, trying to direct it to various sensations and see if you can play with awareness and move it around.
Hmm.
Do you have some good partnered practices that people can try the pillars together?
I would say just sitting with your partner and exploring what kind of touch do you like. And you can do that in an anywhere at any time. And it could just be playing on the hand or on the arm and discovering what they like in that moment.
I love that. I think breathing in sync is also such a simple
Ooh,
one and so underrated as well.
yeah.
You can do it with or without eye gazing. You can do it with your eyes closed if you're not an eye gazing kind of person. But
Yeah.
breathing in sync. Sometimes for people who are not eye gazing people, what I often really like is when one partner is sitting in front of the other partner, but with their back to their partner. The back is to the other partner's chest and stomach. And then you just lean into them and you
Ooh.
feel them breathing, and they can have a hand on your belly or on your chest, and then you can just breathe together.
That sounds slow and intimate and very connected.
Yeah, I love that one. And then
I love
using
it.
sound, I guess, to express pleasure or connection. Can always ask
Mhm.
your partner to moan at you.
Yes. And using all of this in capacity, right? Titrating doesn't have to be all at once. One little thing is a lot to add into something that you haven't done before.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't sit down and be like, practice number one,
Right.
breathing in sync. Practice
Right.
number two, let's use sound to express our pleasure and connect.
Yeah, and the thing too is like once we start to do it for ourselves, then it's reflective in our partners. They start to get curious about, oh my God, you made that sound. It was so exciting. And it brings more awareness to how you guys are sharing your space together and what is exciting and what did you like about what I was doing. It opens up conversation and it can bring more closeness and clearer communication while you are together.
Love it. And why does it matter, right? Like, let's talk about why it matters because some people might be listening and being like, okay, well, who cares though? These are the tools for the foundation of sexual presence.
Yeah.
They also help to reduce performance anxiety. They definitely increase intimacy.
Mhm.
And they can lead to enhanced pleasure, to far greater self awareness, and to a deeper sense of connection with your partner. So that's why these pillars really matter.
Absolutely. Just and getting out of your own way to actually enjoy what's happening for you in that moment. This
Yeah.
gives you something to fall back on and to be like, "Oh, yeah, what I like, I'm stuck in my head. I could breathe. Oh, wait, or I can make a sound, or I can move." And that helps you come back to this moment and to what's happening for you.
A good way to tell if you're embodied is, I think, if you can feel pleasure and it feels expansive and multidimensional. I think
Mm,
that's a good way to tell that you're feeling embodied. If you can notice subtleties in your body, so if you're noticing temperature or tingling or tension in a way that you're not just dismissing, but a way that you can focus your attention on it, that's a good sign that you're embodied. You can feel grounded and aware at the same time. And
yeah.
if you can connect to your sensations, that's another sign that you're embodied.
I would also say if the activity that you were doing just stopped and you wanted more of it, well, then that was an embodied experience. You were definitely embodied. And a feeling of ease, of just spaciousness, and a kind of a carefree attitude or awareness like, yeah, everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything is fine. There's nothing heavy on your mind. I'm just here in this place, in this moment, and I like it. It's good.
Yeah. And I think signs of disconnection, on the other hand, people who are disconnected, they often report feeling numb or feeling checked out. They can also be hyper focused on something. Hyper focus is usually a way of taking us out of our whole body, and we're just
Mm.
focusing in on something that is taking us out of our awareness. Or being focused on external validation is
Oh,
also
very
another
good
one.
one. I would add to that wanting something to be over,
Boredom, maybe.
enduring. Well, yeah, boredom, I would say, is definitely not keeping your attention. So you've checked out, you're somewhere else thinking about
Mhm.
it. So if you find yourself just thinking, okay, I'm ready to be done, I can't wait for this to end, or whatever it is, that's disembodied. You're not present.
So we would love to hear about your embodiment experiences. We would love to hear about when you feel the most embodied, when you feel the most checked out, and any interesting things that you've noticed about embodiment or the five pillars in general. We'd love to hear from you.
It would be so fun. What was your experience using sound the first time? Or when you had a breathing upregulating and maybe you had an expansive orgasm? It'd be great to hear all of that.
We would love it. So definitely let us know. Drop into our DMs, send us a message, leave a comment. Of course, rate the podcast if you are enjoying it. We always appreciate that. Like and subscribe. We will be back with more juicy topics and more thoughts in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.